Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Green of CoachValerieGreen.com. And this podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's top experts to help you to have a mind, body, and spirit connection with yourself and with your true love. And today I'm so excited to be interviewing Laura Zam. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Really excited.
Me too, because we're going to be delving into a really exciting topic, which is why low libido in women is largely a myth. And I'm sure this is going to be really controversial. And I'm sure that I'll have a lot to say about it as a woman. And we'd love to hear your questions and your comments, all the women that are watching and listening, just to start this conversation as to what really causes women to be turned on and how can we really take responsibility and have more pleasure. So we'll be talking about reasons that women turn away from sex and why that has nothing to do with an inherent lack of sex drive, what it does have to do with, and then what you can do about it, right? To really get that juice back, because that's the glue that holds relationships together and with your own female animal body, right? Which we all deserve to have a happy, healthy relationship with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a little bit about Laura before we dive in. Laura is the author of the best-selling memoir, The Pleasure Plan. And she's also a certified trauma professional, sexual health coach, TEDx speaker, and women's health advocate. She has so many awards that I couldn't list them all, but of course you can read about them on her website, which I will provide in the show notes. And her ongoing campus keynotes focus on healthy sexual dialogue as a way to prevent assault, which is super important, of course, and we can touch on that a little bit today, which is that communication, not just to prevent assault, which obviously is extremely important, but how to share what it is that you want rather than what you don't want, so that you get the sex, and the intimacy that you do want. And she regularly offers coaching and workshops for women struggling with sex. She holds a master's degree from Brown University. So she's a wealth of information, and I will give her website at the end of this interview. But before we really let you know how to get in touch with Laura and all the wealth of information she has, first, I just want to know, 80% of couples have a desire discrepancy, which is a huge statistic. And it's usually women who have low desire. And so, Laura, I'd just love to know your opinion as to why is that?
Well, what it has been classified as is this low libido or hyposexual desire disorder. That has been this DSM diagnosis. And it's been thought that in the last, let's say 15 years, it's come to pass that a lot of women have decided that sexologists, sex researchers, that women actually have maybe a different style of arousal and desire. And that's why there were changes made in the latest DSM, whereby it was thought that women had more of a responsive desire, meaning that they needed to have arousal before desire began. But I take things a step further.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a step further and it's a step back. I feel that in all of these thought processes and theorizing and even research, even hardcore research, there is a basic question that is missing when we are talking to women about their sexual desire. And that question is, do you like the sex that is being offered to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very important question.
Do you like it? And I have a feeling that most women might not even be able to answer that question, might not feel equipped because they don't believe that there are any options other than what they think is, I guess, the only thing on the menu. And the way that I think of it is like this. I think that it's a particular style or a particular script or particular sequence of sex that is usually presented to us. I call it the appetizer main dish construct of sex. So there's a salad, let's say, which is usually some kind of warm up for the woman trying to get her aroused. This is very heteronormative. I'm speaking in that context, but heterosexual couples, especially cisgender heterosexual couples, have the most difficulty in this area.
Sure,
the most difficulty.
Unfortunately, I think sex education focuses so much on the anatomical, not the how do you get in the mood and how do you really have a emotional, intimate connection with your partner. So most people learn through watching porn. And that's the paradigm that porn presents is there's this main dish, which is intercourse. And that's what you should always be working towards, and that's the goal, and anything else is a warm up. And so people think that if their sexuality doesn't fit into that, thankfully we're moving out of that now that we have permission for people to own what's authentic for them across the board in many areas. But I do think that that's still the norm that we're being, given.
Absolutely. And I think we are moving out of it in the couples therapy field, in the couples coaching field, in the sexology field. We are moving out of it, but my clients are not moving out of it. They don't believe that there's anything really beyond this. And so if they are not interested in appetizer main dish, i.e. somebody coming at them at 11 o'clock at night who wants to have intercourse, if they're not interested in that, they are then labeled. Either they label themselves or they could go to a professional and the professional can label them, but they're now labeled as having hyposexual desire disorder or having this new diagnosis in the DSM, which is FSAID, or having just low desire, low libido. And this, I believe, is a myth, because I think that the fact that we are rejecting this, maybe something that does not feel very exciting to us, or something that feels like a lot of, let's face it, effort when you're very tired or stressed out to be able to be receptive physically to, rather involve penetration. The fact that we may not have that or feel that way is not a deficiency, and it's certainly not some sort of disorder. It just is, it's just a reflection of the fact that there's too few items on the menu.
I love that, because there's too few items on the menu, and there's also just not a structured way that we're taught how to get into our bodies out of our heads. And if we're in our heads, then nothing on the menu is really going to be, satisfying, because what's on the menu is in our body, and we have to get in our body first. I mean, there's just, which, in my opinion, should be some of the things on the menu.
Should be some things on the menu, absolutely. But I think I've even rethought a little bit the whole transition thing and getting into the body, because I think sometimes, not always, but sometimes that too can be very phallocentric. It can be very male orgasm centric. Like, well, if I just get into my body and do mindfulness, then I'm going to be receptive to intercourse. So I think that if we really want to respond to what women authentically find exciting and erotic, I think we've got to open up that menu quite a lot. When I'm working with my clients, I do this. I say, this is what libido is. I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you right now, Valerie, and people who are listening or watching, they can do it alongside. So this is what libido is. Think of a really, really yummy food. Just think of it right now and it's best if you close your eyes. So you can just have it near you, like close, like you're just about to have whatever it is, the berries, the chocolate, the mac and cheese. Okay, those are mine. Just choose it, one yummy treat. And now place it in your mouth with your imagination, of course. And notice your body. You might feel your salivary glands are now active. The mouth fills with saliva. Some people feel the back of the throat open. Sometimes people feel their heartbeat speed up a little bit. Other people feel a deep sense of relaxation. The whole body kind of slows down. There's a receptiveness and a wanting for this, because it's just now in our imagination, or wanting more if we've convinced our bodies that we've got that. To me, that's libido. This is what libido is. The libido is the body wanting something yummy.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally moving toward it. We're not in our heads when there's some chocolate there.
Right, exactly. It's just like this warming up to it. It's this magnetic pull towards it. It's
exactly,
this openness, this feeling of pleasure when we think about it, this sort of like being drawn towards it.
Yes, right. And it's a very natural process. And when we open up our concept of sex and include activities that legitimately elicit this kind of wanting because they're fun, because they're delicious, very important for women, because there is no pressure to perform.
Exactly.
We automatically have a libido because we have a desire to do that. We may not have a desire to have, somebody on top of us pumping away, like spontaneously. But we may have a desire for something else. We may have a desire for, just lying in bed with some fabulous music, chosen specially, let's say by this gal, and just lying there and eating chocolate and feeling like that does not have to lead to anything else. It does not have to be quote unquote, oh, this is foreplay. And this is the way that I'm getting aroused so that my husband can mount me or my lover can mount me. No, it's not foreplay. And it doesn't even have to add up to orgasm or even, full arousal if that's not what a person's in the mood for. But right now there's a binary. It's either I'm in the mood for pumping away or I'm not, and I have low libido, and there's nothing else on the menu. And so all I'm doing is rejecting my partner.
Mm-hmm, right. And that is the conundrum that so many women are caught in these days. And I agree. I think more things need to be added to the menu in order to be able to legitimize pleasure, because otherwise we're just working all the time, including taking care of other people and housework, including our jobs, right? And then most people don't even know how to rest and experience pleasure. And so, first of all, those things have to be on the menu in order for us to be even open to, something more traditionally sexual. My question around that is okay, so let's say a woman realizes there's more things on the menu and she wants more pleasure, and she's, putting on soft music and candlelight and getting into her body, and there's no pressure for anything else. And how does she enroll her husband in that to enjoy that with her and not put pressure on her?
Well, I have this thing, I call it tapas sex, T-A-P-A-S. So to get away from appetizer and main dish, there is a whole other style of food, whole other style of eating. And with tapas, you had lots of little dishes.
Yes, I love that.
And cumulatively, they comprise a very tasty meal. But none of those dishes is prioritized. None of those dishes is more important than the other dish.
I love that.
And so with tapas sex, what you do is you create a menu with your partner. You create a master menu where you put down all the activities that you find delicious, that would inspire desire for that, right?
Right.
And your partner does the same. That's step one. Step two, you put your list together and both of you have veto power over the other master list of your partner. In that way, there's nothing on your partner's list that would cause you to be triggered or to feel very uncomfortable. So that way you feel safe.
Right, that makes sense.
So you take that off the list. That's step two. Step three, you have this list. And now let's say you schedule a lovemaking session, or you decide that this is a good time to make love. The two of you take out the menu. It's got, 2 columns, and each of you chooses 2 or 3 items from the menu. And you decide this is what our lovemaking experience is going to be comprised of. In that way, everybody gets pleasure activities that suit them in the moment. And I found for myself and with my clients that if they can have things that they really, really want, and they can have spaciousness around that so that it doesn't have to be tied to, and I can only do this in a way that's going to take care of my partner, sexually. You don't have to worry about it because your partner already put their own items on the list that take care of them sexually. So you can just be in bed with the berries if that's what you want. So you decide, and then that becomes your lovemaking session. And then it's by mutual agreement if you want things to evolve in any particular way. If you want to add things, that becomes a communication. But there's no expectation and there's no pressure that you have to do anything other than what you have already decided. It's kind of like a little contract between you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, me and my husband have something similar to that, just intuitively, where I let him know the things that I want, a whole menu of things that I want to do that would give me pleasure. And then he lets me know his whole menu of things, and then we choose. It's not as explicit as tapas. I think that would be a fun little experiment to write down all the ways that we could have tapas and enjoy that.
But I love that you're doing that already. How is that for you, Valerie, if you don't mind my asking, that you feel like you have that agency to say, these are things that would really be interesting to me tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I personally can't imagine living without it, because I am so intellectual and I need those things to get out of my head and into my body, so I had to come up with a list because that's my solution for everything. Come up with a list, of ways to get into my body so that I do them. But I imagine that, I'm very lucky that my parents didn't have shame around sex. So I didn't receive a lot of programming against it. I imagine if I did, it would be a lot harder for me. And that's my question to you, because I imagine that most of your clients have more resistance that how do you help women even determine what it is that they want that would give them pleasure, especially if they have, sorry, there's a fly around here. I'm buzzing it away, especially if they, and it's not a funny subject, but especially if they have sexual trauma or they have a lot of shame around sex, how do you help them connect to what it is that would give them pleasure on the menu?
Yeah, it is a great question. And I have lots of different offerings that are, that are all tied to that for that very reason. So there's a, there's a freebie, there's a free guide on my website that's all about that, and different kinds of courses and coaching that are very much tied to that. I didn't have any idea what I liked, what was interesting to me. I had 6 different kinds of sexual dysfunction, and that included low libido, but also orgasm challenges, arousal, and I had 3 different kinds of pelvic pain, and which became 4 different kinds once I approached menopause. I didn't know what the heck was going on with me, and I have a history also of sexual trauma, and so I just felt really lost,
Yeah.
really, really lost in this department. And labeled myself broken and just thought, well, there's no hope. It makes sense. I was abused when I was a very young child, and it just doesn't make sense that I wasn't able to develop any kind of healthy sexuality. But then I went on a journey to heal myself right after getting married for the first time when I was 46 years old. And I spent years studying this, studying female sexuality, studying trauma recovery, studying relationships. And in the process of that, I got so fascinated by this, but also pissed off that there wasn't enough information out there for women, that I became a sexologist in order to help other women who were in a situation similar to mine.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I totally identify with this, with not knowing, but my own learning all came together in this particular area. I mean, it all converged around, okay, this is the solution. It's the solution to my trauma recovery. It's the solution to my relationship. It's the solution to my life in terms of feeling like I'm empowered and not perpetually victimized by something that happened to me 40, now 50 years ago.
Yeah.
This was just the answer to just figure out, oh, what do I authentically like?
Yeah.
And could I ask for that? What do I authentically want? And can I ask for that?
Such a beautiful couple of questions.
Yeah. And they're really profound questions, but I take your question to heart so seriously, because I think most of us who are in these female bodies, we don't feel like we have the agency to ask those questions. We think if we even ask the question of ourselves, even dare to articulate it in a small way, somebody's going to leave us, or we're never gonna, or no one's ever going to come our way. We're never gonna find someone. That we can't assert ourselves in this way. We really just have to be very careful to please that other person, especially these male partners. And I'm all about pleasing my husband, but it's got to be 50-50.
Right, of course. Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think that what you're speaking to is really important, though, because so many of us have programming, even if it's not about sex, that it's not okay to ask for what we want, programming from our childhood, that it's not okay to have desires, or if we have shame about sex, it's certainly not okay to ask for something, that's outside the norm, right? Like that might be our belief. Not that that's true, of course, but that might be our belief.
Yeah.
Or I know a lot of my clients, I'm sure this is true for you too, that if they even thought of coming up with a menu outside of what their husband wants, that he's frustrated. So he'd be upset that he's not getting what he wants, so because he's already frustrated. if
Yes, it's the fear, but the solution, if we think it through, if we follow it a little bit down the line, this person is frustrated because they're, let's say, a female partner or woman is not interested in sex.
right.
And so, but if she becomes interested in sex, but not perhaps the sex that he really prefers, at least there is sex happening. And I think
Exactly.
most people, most of these guys, but it's every gender, we want to please our partner. They desperately want to please their partner. So the reality, even though I understand the fear, and like I said, I also held those fears myself, but the reality is that our partners most of the time will work with us, want to work with us. They just want us to want them, to want
Mhm.
to be together in an intimate and erotic way. And what if this is a solution to bring things together, to bring enthusiasm into their bedrooms? By golly, I think that most people are going to be okay with starting to bend their minds around the fact that, oh, we're not just going to have intercourse. Okay. Okay.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's good for you to dispel those fears, because until someone is able to have the fear named, then it might run underneath the surface. And it's actually, if you bring it up in a way where you're saying, hey, I want to be intimate with you. It's just that I need some new things on the menu. Can we talk about
Exactly.
it? Like, can I present you some new things, and then you can present some new things and we'll have fun together? Like, of course, most people will be open to that. It's just once you get past the fear of bringing up something new, and once he gets past, assuming it's a he, something new, then it can be really exploratory.
Yeah, and I just love the whole way, the languaging that you just used around that. I'd love to be intimate with you. I just need some new fun things on the menu, and you get to put some new fun things on the menu. Can we talk about that? I think
Right.
it is it when I heard it coming out of your mouth, I was like, wow, that's it. In a nutshell, just like beautifully phrased, Valerie, right? It just could be those few sentences can be just, I think, really life altering.
Exactly. And, it's just about getting past our own internal resistance, that it has to be hard, and really articulating what it is that we want. And then it's presenting it in a way that seems inviting and fun, because, of course, that's what people want. As long as you present it in a way that's inviting and fun, then it'll be fun. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the framing. Like lots of my clients also have pelvic pain, and some of them can't engage in intercourse at this time, or and there may be solutions, like with some pelvic floor disorders. There can be a process of healing that, of reconditioning the muscles. But other people have more chronic conditions, more chronic pelvic pain or painful sex conditions, and for them, it can be very disheartening. And a lot of them have a real despondency, I'd say, around finding a partner or continuing their relationship in a healthy way, because it's like, well, somebody can't have intercourse with me, and so therefore nobody's ever going to want me, or this person is never going to stay with me. It really just comes down to that for them. And so this kind of thing, really, when we open it up, it just provides also a great opportunity to have workarounds for all kinds of
Mhm.
functional issues. Because I'll say this, and I'm very astounded by this scenario, but often women have a lot of difficulty asking for some kinds of things in the bedroom that are outside the norm, or that are different than the traditional script. But if you stay with someone long enough, it may be, if you're with a partner that has a penis, that person may start to have erectile dysfunction at some point. And now you've got to switch things up in the bedroom. And so if for those of us who are partnered with older guys, let's say, it's quite common that, right, that there are these erectile difficulties, and then therefore by default we're switching things up.
Exactly, that intercourse might not be on the menu then anyway, and there's so many other fun things that you can do.
Right, but there also is, once that happens, when we enter that stage, because it's a little bit dominated by the patriarchy, it's just taken for granted that of course we're going to adjust because there's a penis involved. So the woman is just going to adjust to whatever it is, be it if it's injections, if it's Viagra, if it's the fact that they're, that her erection is not on the table at all, that she's going to adjust. And she may adjust, and that's fine. I think it's great. That's tapas sex. The adjustment is sex. But that same woman might have spent 40 years saying, oh, I can't possibly get away from this particular sequence of foreplay and intercourse because otherwise somebody's going to leave me. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And if you just expand your awareness to know that it's going to have to change eventually anyway, then it might as well just change sooner.
It might as well change sooner, but also that we also have the ability to change this to suit ourselves. It's not just that we're waiting around for our partners to say, okay, now we can switch things up because I'm the one who has a functional issue.
Exactly.
I just think there's a real inequity there because I think that there's such terror around us having a different construct, redefining, reimagining what sex is, until somebody else says, okay, now we have to reimagine what sex is.
Right. And it can be us that has the courage to say, hey, I would like to be intimate with you in a variety of new ways.
In a variety of new ways.
I'd like to try some new things. I like the way things have been happening. I'd like to try some new things.
Yeah, exactly. And framing this in this positive way. Oh, and I lost my train of thought a little bit. So with my clients that have these pelvic pain disorders and might feel some of this despondency, that's a lot of my coaching with them, is to frame things in this really positive way and to say, hey, I'm really interested in sex, but I'm interested in all kinds of activities. And this particular activity is painful for me. And so we've got to, figure out how we work that in or not work that in, find some other kinds of mutually pleasurable experience for us.
Exactly.
But it's that positive framing that can be so difficult when we're in a mindset of, oh, I'm broken, and the only way I could even have a conversation is, listen, I have something to tell you. You can't screw me, and so therefore I know you're going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm laughing just because I think that the way that we've been taught is so limited. I'm not laughing at the dynamic, of course, because I think it's sad that we've been so limited. But
it is sad. I think it's really, really sad that we've been conditioned. And I call this the next feminist frontier, not just pleasure, but I really think of it in the larger context of healing. I think it's us finding our wholeness, reclaiming parts of ourselves. And so many of us have, so much, wounds around this. That may include misconduct as well, and all kinds of things. And so I think sexual healing is the next feminist frontier.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, just one more question about healing, because I know we've talked a lot so far. We've mentioned healing, but we've talked a lot about just increasing the menu. How would you recommend that somebody shares with their partner if they do have some trauma or they do have some healing that's very sensitive, that they need some increased sensitivity around? Or would you recommend that they reach out and talk to you or some other professional even how to frame that with their partner for what they need if they're overcoming some kind of trauma or wounding around their sexuality and they need a lot of sensitivity around that.
Yeah, I think working with someone is always a really great idea to have support around this. And if somebody has, if somebody is especially never seen a therapist around trauma that may be really hijacking, you know, different kinds of post-traumatic stress that might really live within one's body and psyche, I think it's great to find strategies and to work with someone. But working with coaches is also great, can be really great if you feel ready to be sexual. Often when people, when they begin their recovery from sexual trauma, the first phase of it often is safety. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Safety is really, really primary. And along with that safety, very often it is the ability to set boundaries, which of course is, you know, the heart also of our agency, but feeling like we can set those boundaries, that we're not going to be victimized or violated. That's
Exactly.
really our step one. And often people are not ready in initial stages to be sexual because they're just not there yet. There's not enough safety. But once someone emerges from that, then I believe it's very important and therapeutic to explore what it is that we like. And I really think it's important to do that solo. Do that without a partner, to just get an idea of what pleasure is for us, and to work that out with ourselves. And we can soothe ourselves, we can learn techniques to redirect if we should feel triggered. Even with ourselves, we might feel triggered because there might be parts of the body that are, for instance, we don't like being touched, that kind of thing, or a different, or, you know, way of touching. So anyway, we can learn ourselves how to deal with some of these triggers, and also we can really load up on the things that bring us this authentic pleasure, so that when we are with a partner, when we're ready to be with our partner, be sexual, even to have that conversation, we already have some things at our disposal. So we can go slow, and yes, we need to have that conversation with our partner, and you know, and require that sensitivity, as you say. But I think it can be more productive and make people feel less broken if they can bring to the table some erotic solutions that they've discovered for themselves. And I think that is, in some ways, can be the most healing thing of all, to have that agency to reclaim our bodies and our pleasure, and to make that experience for us, so that we don't feel like, yeah, like somebody is using our bodies for their own, you know, to get off.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's up to each one of us to connect with ourselves and figure out what it is that gives us pleasure, and explore ourselves so that we can teach the other person, so that we know if they're even teachable.
Yes, that's a great point. We have to find out if they're teachable. That's part of our empowerment too, is to just see what the response is of our partner, because yeah, sometimes people need to be they need to be guided in this respect. And if we're, let's say, you know, have a partner, and we want to keep that partner, maybe bringing that partner into a therapeutic situation, seeing a relationship coach or a sex therapist or a couples therapist might be able to help that other person, the non-abused party, understand, and to come along on that journey a bit more, I don't know, with more sensitivity.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that you have a free gift before we close, guiding women in how to discover what they want sexually. So do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called 12 Playful and Powerful Rituals for Awakening Our Sensual Potential. And I'm really into potential, healthy sexuality being an important component in reaching our life potential. And under that rubric, I think a lot about our sensual potential. So not just healing and getting to some sort of a point and saying, I'm done, I heal, but thinking of this as an ongoing evolution, just as we're always evolving, let's say, our spirituality or our intellect, our compassion, all of these things, I think that it's also our right to develop ourselves perpetually in this erotic realm. So these are 12 playful and powerful rituals, and they really are ways to get connected for the first time with our sensuality, or it's ways to reconnect with our sensuality. And they are very, very simple, and they don't assume anything. They don't assume that you are already way on your path, although they can be great for that. I really wanted something that could also help people along who feel very, very stuck and very, very disconnected from their sexual selves. So that is my free gift.
Yeah, it sounds like it can help you wherever you are, whether you're
Yes.
stuck and disconnected or whether you're just feeling complacent and you want to think outside the box with what would be even more pleasurable. So sounds like it's a resource that is helpful to any woman. And so that is available at mysensualpotential.com, which I will put the link to that below the video if you're watching this on YouTube, and in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. And then I'll also put the links for how you can reach Laura, because, you know, she has a lot of really wonderful information. And of course, I know that you're taking new clients. And so I recommend that people check out your free gift and then reach out to you if I'll put your website if they want to get in touch with you, because I believe that everybody deserves to know and advocate and receive their full sensual potential. You know, that's just part of our birthright.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Valerie, for having me on your podcast. It's really, I just love talking with you. You have such a great wealth of knowledge, and I just always get so much out of just tapping into your brain and all the different things that you've experienced and thought about all these years. You are such a wealth of knowledge.
Oh gosh, well, likewise, you know, I've enjoyed picking your brain a little bit, and I will follow you as well. And I hope everyone else does too, to follow Laura. And if you've liked this episode, then I encourage you to like it and subscribe. And please give us your questions below in the comments in YouTube or on my website. If it's not available to put comments, if you're listening to the podcast, then the website will be www.coachvaleriegreen.com/podcast/Laura. And I will put that in the show notes as well. So you can go and leave a comment and ask us a question. And we really do want to serve you and your sensual potential, and also the potential that we all have for that mind, body, spirit, soul shaking love. So until next time.